Hey, welcome back to With the First Pick. The NFL Draft is in the books for 2026. I'm Ryan Wilson. Former Titans GM Rand Carthon, two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden, Pete Prisco covered the league for more than 3 decades. We are now turning our attention to some NFL draft grades. And Pete, let's start in the AFC West. And you, sir, this is where you got married, going to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Las Vegas Raiders. You've been married for 25?
26 years, coming up next week.
Congratulations.
Yep.
That woman
I
deserves,
cashed the over ticket. Everybody else took the under.
by at least 20 years, by my estimation. All right, go back.
26, yeah, the over.
hit a long time ago. Let's go back out to Vegas, Pete. And we heard Rand talk about this earlier about another team, the Cleveland Browns, I think. But the Vegas Raiders have hope. So what is your grade for Las Vegas after this draft haul?
B+. Look, I like Mendoza. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I think the ceiling is Matt Ryan for him, which would be a heck of a ceiling.
Yep.
I love Stukes, the corner/hybrid/safety/nickel. And I think he's going to be a big part of what they do. Crawford was a really good edge player. They need help there. Trey Zune can play a bunch of different spots. Mike Washington, running back. They needed a running back to back up Genty. I like that one. And then you go down and you get Benson. Benson can run as a wide receiver. So I think all in all, really good draft. It'll be decided, though, no matter what happens, by what that quarterback does. But I give him a B+.
Yeah, that feels about right. And ultimately, it could be an A+ if Fernando hits, and something less than that if it's a situation where they're back at the QB well in 4 or 5 years from now. All right, Rand, we're coming to you, sir. And the Kansas City Chiefs draft grade, down year last year, but things had changed right quick, it feels like.
Yeah, man, this is an A. This is an A class for me, and you could argue an A+. And we talked about Mansour Delane and Peter Woods and getting R. Mason Thomas with your first 3 picks. I don't know if anyone would have guessed that you would walk out of the first three picks having those 3 players. Instant impact guys. Jaden Kennedy, a guy that B-Mac really likes, and be able to play for you in the slot. We just talked about Emmett Johnson and what he's going to bring to that offense. And then in the 7th round, for you to get a guy like Garrett Nussmeier to sit in the wings behind a Patrick Mahomes, that is going to really be big for them. This is a guy, he will have a chance to become a really good quarterback in this league, having played under Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And dare I say, in the event that Patrick Mahomes goes down again, gives you a quarterback that you can win football games.
You know, we talk about pedigree real quick on those quarterbacks. Remember, a year ago this time they were talking about a first-round pick for Nussmeier.
He was Carson Beck after Carson Beck was Carson Beck, and now that has since become Fernando Mendoza.
The entire quarterback class for this year, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Talking high and everything kind of deflated.
Cade Klubnik as well. He's with the Jets now. All right, B-Mac, let's come to you here. The Los Angeles Chargers, and I thought they had a good draft. What grade did you give them?
I gave them a B. I gave the Chargers a B, and it starts off with Akeem Messador. This is a great situation for him. He has an opportunity to learn from one of the best to do it in Khalil Mack. I think he would be more of a stand-up rusher, and he's going to eat in that system. You look at Jake Slaughter, I think he's going to be more of a guard. Instantly, he could be a day 1 starter, right? I understand you might see some of the highs and lows throughout his collegiate tape there at Florida, but this is potentially a gem in the rough for them if he can kind of find his niche. You look at Brendan Thompson, this is all about speed.
Yep.
Now, will he become a more polished route runner there, polished wide receiver? We have to wait and see, but the speed is there. It's about the development and the kind of the unknown with that part. I'm going to tell you this much. I love Pete Nick Barnett. They got in the 5th round. I think they needed to add some interior guys defensively. That was one of the more weak points of their defense last year, interior pass rush. We know they can rush from the edge, but trying to find a way to generate some interior pass rush. Nick Burnett is a heck of a ball player. Logan Taylor, O-lineman also from Boston College. So in all, it didn't wow you with the pizzazz, but I think this is a real serviceable draft for the Chargers.
Big people. There's a lot of big people on that list.
You sound like Harbaugh, right?
Yep, you're a big people person.
Yep.
Speaking of not a lot of pizzazz with the draft class, let's go to Denver before we take a break here. I gave the Denver Broncos a B. They didn't pick until round 3, in part because of Jalen Waddle, which was a first-round pick. You see there Tyler Onyedem. You loved him a lot, Pete.
I did.
Him and his teammate Albert Regis were both drafted in similar ranges and both really good players. And then Jonah Coleman. That's how you help out Bo Nix or whoever the quarterback happens to be. Love that pick. And this is
the quarterback it is Bo Nix. Ain't no
just coming off the injury.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And then they got the next version of Evan Ingram and Justin Jolie out of NC State by way of UConn. Insane athleticism. He doesn't block particularly well, but that's not why you draft him there. And then pulling up the rear. I'm getting to
Brett Murdoch was the last pick.
Wasn't the captain of your better than team, but he made your better than team.
He's a physical linebacker, man.
You talked him up a lot throughout the later part of the process. You talked him up.
He had a ton of forced fumbles because all he is a downhill.
I don't think he's a 3-down linebacker, but I think he can play on, in the first and second down. He can be a good player, probably be a special teams player.
Before we take a break, Pete, you and Rand both liked Emmett Johnson better than Jonah Coleman, but you love this fit, I would imagine, in Denver.
Yeah, well, they need to get another back, so I think it makes sense. I would have taken Emmett Johnson. I would have loved to have seen him in that system. Woo-wee.
He would also have Eaton for sure.
What grade did you give him?
A B.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, they didn't have a ton of needs. They filled their needs, and they're moving on to the next thing.
Probably a C grade then, because you always grade
All right, let's take another break here. AFC West in the books. We're going to turn our attention to the AFC East. Hey, look at David Bailey there. He didn't cry, I don't think, but he looks pretty happy. Kenyon Sadiq was at home by way of Idaho, if you guys didn't know that. And we'll talk about the AFC East as well as those players right after this break. Hey, welcome back to With the First Pick. We're talking draft grades here in the post-2026 NFL draft world. We are turning our attention to the AFC East. And B-Mac, I'm going to come to you first, man. You're not even grading on a curve here talking about the New York Jets because you love what they did.
Yeah, for me, it's an A+. When you have the type of draft capital the Jets had, you got to cash in. And boy, did they cash in. I think they have 4 starters, guys. The first 4 picks will be starters for them. That's production. Not to mention, you look at Darrell Jackson. You look at the position that he's in. When you look at they traded for Sweat, you have Harrison Phillips. Darrell Jackson Jr. has an opportunity to play in year 1 as well. And the potential is there. You guys saw him at the Senior Bowl. He was moving other grown men against their will.
He had a good week.
With ease. And then Cade Klubnik, you get him in the 4th round. Once upon a time, he was considered a first-round selection. Of course, things kind of flatlined for him at Clemson, but clearly the skill set is there. And like my colleague Rand Carthon says, he didn't forget how to play football. He still knows how to play football. So for me, great job by Aaron Glenn. They had the capital. They cashed in. A+.
Like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope the 3 guys are still on the roster in 4 years.
Moving right along.
Yeah. So, I mean, B-Mac does his job, gets in and out, and you got to say something
Jets
like that.
fans are hyped, and you do this.
Producer Lucas is a Jets fan. Lucas is
used to it, though. So
But I'm trying to give Lucas hope, and here we have
it's been a
pessimistic
great draft
Pete.
fighting Rick Spielman's.
And Lucas just
Don't
says
fall into-
Cade
don't fall
Klubnik will
for
never
it,
win a game
Lucas.
in New York. See, don't feed the beast. All right, let's go to you here, Petey. The Miami Dolphins draft grade, and you must have went to the same school of grading as B-Mac here. You like this?
I love their draft.
Yeah.
I mean, top to bottom, they had a lot of picks. They did a lot with them. I love Proctor. You know that. I thought he was the best tackle in the class. He's going to play guard probably and then eventually become a right tackle. I think Chris Johnson will be a starter. Jacob Rodriguez, outstanding pick. I like Caleb Douglas a lot more than B-Mac did. They got the blocking tight end. Chris Bell, if he's healthy, can be a part of the rotation as well. I like the safety Taft from Texas, good player. All across the board, Kyle Lewis made a lot of plays. Where do you play him? That's the question, but he is a good football player. So I think the Miami Dolphins knocked it out of the park. And by the way, Miami Dolphin fans hate me because they think I killed Tua. They think I killed Mike McDaniel, which I did.
Yeah, you did.
You killed it in this draft. I give you an A.
All right, there you go.
I wouldn't be shocked if Kyle Lewis starts his career strong safety in that defense.
I would think so, too. But, there's been a lot of linebackers. They tried to move the strong safety, and they ended up saying no, and they ended up in big, good-time spots, like Levante David and
Oh, that's true.
Brooks.
I talked to Kyle Lewis at the Senior Bowl, and we went over some of his favorite plays, and they were all interceptions on
He
rail
makes a lot of
routes.
plays. I think Rand's right. I think I would try him at strong safety.
He has instincts.
He had incredible instincts.
Especially in this defense and what they require from the strong safety.
All right, Rand. Buffalo Bills have a new defensive coordinator, speaking of defense, Jim Leonard, and you gave them, sir, a B.
Yeah, I think it was just solid. They kept trading back. They got out of the first. And so obviously that's going to shrink your pool in terms of dynamic players. But you still get a player that was arguably a first-round talent in T.J. Parker with your first pick. And then you take our guy IGB, who's a physical corner, a handsy corner, but he's going to bring an edge to those guys on the outside that's going to be needed playing in this division. Now, I want to slide down a little bit. And first of all, B-Mac's already hit Jalen Kilgore. And the versatility he's going to bring there. It would not shock me if he's their starting nickel going into the year because I think he is a younger, more calmer version of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, right? But I want to show, and he's a Gator. He is a Gator, but Ryan knows my affinity for special teams. They drafted a punter. They drafted a punter, Tommy Doman from Florida, a big leg guy that does a really good job of hanging the ball. He did a really good job of pinning guys inside the 20. And we know, especially playing in outdoors in Buffalo, you got to have a big leg come November, December, January and help flip the field. All you really asking for this young guy to do, hang it 40 by 40. You don't have to punch it deep and show how strong it is. Hang it 40 by 40 and let those guys run under it. Create those situations where you flip the field. I like the fact that they drafted.
So would you give him a B?
I'm sorry, yeah, I gave him a B.
One problem I have with their draft, this is me. I would have taken R. Mason Thomas over T.J. Parker. I think he would have fit better what they do. That's the only problem I have with it.
I mean, that's fair.
Well, how many guys are going to start on that they drafted? That we ask that question all the time. I don't think a lot of those guys.
But they needed help, right? You agree they needed help with that position. You would have gone R. Mason Thomas.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is where they decide to play the Miami guy. What's his?
Greg Rousseau.
Greg Rousseau.
Right.
I think that will determine if.
But the
TJ
corner's not going to play right away.
Might.
No, he's not. Where's he playing?
You think everyone stays healthy for 17 weeks?
Well, I'm saying
He's
if
not gonna
everybody's
start.
healthy.
Week one.
Yeah.
Everybody's healthy. He's not playing.
But they okay, fair enough. I don't want to get into it with you.
Well, he's not.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
I'm going to take a deep breath, do my meditation.
Ryan's ready to fight, y'all. We're getting close to the end.
Hey, we are getting close to
Just getting started.
Listen, the time limit on Time with Pete Prisco is right. We're reaching right at the red line here, so we got to get through this thing. All right, I got the New England Patriots. I gave them also a grade of B. Caleb Lomu picked 28. They traded up for that. You're okay with that, right, Pete? You like Lomu.
I do like Lomu.
And I shouldn't have prompted you to talk about whether he plays left tackle or right tackle. He's going to play right tackle. Gabe Yakus at 55. I'd heard he could have gone higher than that. That feels about the range. Incredibly strong at the point of attack. The Patriots are going to Patriot. They took Karan Prunty, who had no invites to anything throughout the pre-draft process. He is a long corner. I think he's going to be special teams first off. Demetrius Crownover, we've heard me and Rand both talk about him at Texas A&M, so he adds depth there. And J.M. Miller, the running back, I'll mention him. I think he's a good fit in round 7. My guy, Quintavious Hutchins, the edge rusher out of BC. I love that. But I want to ask you guys this before we move on here and take a break. Did you all have Baron Morton getting drafted ahead of Garrett Nussmeier?
No. No.
That's
what happened.
I mean, you guys made fun of me for a lot of things this week. If I had said that out loud, you may have just run me out of the building. No?
We're going to run you out of the building.
Yeah, they're running us all out of the building in about an hour.
Lord willing. That's
Or we'll be running out of the building in about an hour.
Somebody's going to be running.
But I gave this a B because steady as she goes. This team is in great shape in terms of where they are. They needed to address the offensive line. They did that. Needed help at edge rusher. They did that and then added a bunch of depth. Baron Morton feels like the most backup Patriots quarterback.
They drafted their left tackle of the future.
They drafted last year. That's right, they picked 4. All right, let's take another quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to turn to Pete's division, the AFC South. He's still the mayor of Jacksonville there. Hey, there's my guy, Carnell Tate. You guys need to chill about Carnell because I was right about that. We're going to talk AFC South draft grades right after this. Welcome back to With the First Pick. Our journey around the league and the divisions continues. We are now turning our attention to the AFC South, where we're giving draft grades for each team in that division. I have the Tennessee Titans, and guys, I gave them a B+. It started with Carnell Tate at pick 4. I know some of you probably prefer Jordan Tyson. It wouldn't have been crazy had Jordan Tyson gone there. The Tennessee Titans did surprise a lot of folks by, in fact, taking Carnell. Pick 31, they got Keldrick Falk, which I think is about the range he should come off, and we'll figure out where they decide to play him. His best football hopefully is in front of them. Then at pick 60, they got Rams guy Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker. Later in the draft, Fernando Carmona, my guy, who will kick inside from Arkansas. Running back Nicholas Singleton is now on the board in round 5. And then America's center, Pete, they got Pat Coogan in round 6 out of Indiana.
It'll be a nice backup in the end.
The MVP of the Rose Bowl, by the way, Pete.
He'll be a nice backup.
This team is a lot better today than they were before going into this week.
There's no question about that.
All right, so we agree with that. So
I would argue that it's potentially an A.
I was gonna ask that question. I feel like it could be a little higher.
Because I think they got value. You got Jared, was it Koenig?
Jared Kanek.
Koenig.
Yep.
A guy that's developing, new position. Pat Coogan, I think Pat Coogan will ultimately end up starting. I think Anthony Hill will end up starting.
Well, let's be real, though. This draft will be defined by taking a wide receiver at number 4. He's got to be
work.
special.
He's got to work.
He got to be special.
No, that's right. So they got the quarterback, now they got the wide receiver. We'll see how this plays out. All right, let's make our way down to the Houston Texans. Where Rand, your guy that you work with in San Francisco, D'Amico Ryans, also had a very good draft in your eyes.
Yeah, Money Meek. I flirted with the A on this, Pete, but I went B+. The one thing I saw post-draft, and you saw D'Amico speaking to his staff, the scouts, the coaches, and he said, this was our guy. This is the mentality we said we wanted. We wanted to be more physical and more aggressive on offense, and we got our guy, and that guy was Keelan Rutledge. May not have been a popular pick amongst everyone. I know Pete had him pegged for the Houston Texans at 26, but they got their kind of guy, and then you follow that up with a Caden McDonald, a guy that's going to be, because let's call it what it is. They've been light in the interior of their defensive line over these last couple of years and have given up some leaky yardage in the run game. Now you have that plugging guy in the middle that's going to free up those linebackers at the second level and just let them run, chase, and hit, which is what they like to do. And then a guy that I thought people slept on a little bit was Wade Woodis from Clemson. You turn on the tape and you watch him. He is flying around, making a ton of plays, tackling, and I think he'll be a natural fit. And then Kamari Ramsey, I think, will come in on the back end and compete to be that third, fourth safety because I do think he's a rock and roll guy. He has some nickel flex. I don't know that he's an ideal NFL nickel athlete, but he has some nickel flex to do some of their zone stuff in nickel. So I gave them a B+.
And the other Pat Coogan on the other side of the ball, Aiden Fisher, they drafted, the linebacker out of Indiana in the 7th round as well. Not a high-end athlete, but a really good football player.
Their first 2 picks are violent football players, which you love.
And they're also what?
Huh?
Big guys.
People.
Big people.
All right. Pete, you're not a big person, but you were picking next for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a compliment.
I'm a little guy who likes big people.
Figuratively
How
and
about that, huh?
literally.
I want teams to pick big people.
That you've been that way forever.
I gave the Jaguars a C+. I don't think it's as bad a draft as everybody makes it out to be, but I don't love it either. I think I love Borkacher. I'm in the minority on that one. I think he was on my better than team. In fact, they picked 2 tight ends who were on my better than team.
That's why you love
both
this
of them.
draft.
Tanner Kozile in the 5th round. Look, well, really, one's a tight end and one's really a receiver. That's what he is. That's what Kozile is.
Why don't you just draft a receiver then?
Well, because you can create, these guys, they all want to follow each other. They create mismatches. We'll put 14 tight ends on the field and create mismatches. Then they got Regis, who I think is going to be a good defensive lineman. Pregnon's going to be a steal. It might not happen right away. In 2 or 3 years, he's going to be a guard that everybody around the league looks at and goes, that's what a guard's supposed to look like. He's physical and nasty. The Husky kid, you hear a lot of,
not heavy set, Jalen Husky.
Yeah, he's going to be a guy that's going to sit for a while, play special teams, and then if they decide to move on from Eric Murray a year from now, he'll probably be one of the guys that competes for the job. Wesley Williams, I like more than you do. I think he can rush the passer better than you think he does. I also like Josh Cameron, one of the wide receivers they got in the 6th round, big physical player. So, do I love the draft? No. It will be defined by what happens with that tight end. If that tight end is a really good tight end and catches 35, 40 passes and blocks like a mule, good pick. If he doesn't, they're going to have problems.
How's a mule block?
I have no idea.
How's a mule block?
Block like a mule.
That's the answer.
Knocks people out of the way.
Oh, okay. All right, B-Mac. Let's go to Indianapolis.
Yeah, the Colts.
Naptown.
Yeah, the Colts was one team we really haven't applauded in terms of their draft efforts.
You're
I
right.
gave them an A-. Now remember, they did not have a 1st-round pick because of the Sauce Gardner trade. So if you want to tab Sauce Gardner to this draft class, you can because that's why they had to wait and pick in the 2nd round.
I didn't add Travis Hunter to this one.
Yeah, you could have, but you didn't. C.J. Allen, you got in the 2nd round. I know some people saw 1st-round value for him. I think he's going to be a day-1 starter, and he's a mean guy. And one thing I know about UGA, they don't miss with off-ball linebackers. Those guys go to the league, and they're already developed, and oftentimes they're very, very successful. So I expect the same thing. A.J. Halsey is one of my favorite safeties that was available. Remember, they just lost Nick Cross to the Commanders. And when you talk about A.J. Halsey, he reminds me a lot of Kevin Byard. He's a ball-hawking safety, great ball skills. I think he will surface in this lineup at some point in time throughout this season. You look at Jalen Farmer, you look at Bryce. My favorite guy, though, guys, in this draft class for the Colts, round 6, they got Caden Curry from Ohio State.
Oh, that's Pete's guy.
The thing about Caden Curry, he might not wow you with his athleticism, but he's a lunch pail guy. Right. He plays what I call that mother-in-law defense, that nagging defense. My mother-in-law isn't nagging, but we know most mother-in-laws are nagging. He plays that nagging defense. A double-digit sack guy for Ohio State, I think 16 and a half TFLs. So he's a football player, and his motor never cuts off. That's the thing I love about him. His gas tank is always on full, and he is relentless. So when you talk about getting good value in the 6th round for the Colts, I love everything they've done in terms of what they did this draft class, A-.
Caden Curry was on the better than team.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I loved him.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I loved him. And by the way, That's not what you told me about your mother-in-law when we were out there in the green room.
Come on, Pete. I will say this, B-Mac, A- is actually, that's a great grade. We have not talked a lot about the Colts because they did not have that first-round pick. I'll mention Seth McGowan, the running back out of Kentucky, fantastic player. And Deion Burks in round 7, I didn't think he would be there. So
Yeah, I forgot about
Josh
him
Downs
at
light.
in the 7th.
So you have that as well. All right, let's take another quick break here. Then we're going to go to B-Mac's division, the AFC North, and see how those teams did.
I'm grading the Steelers.
Look at this guy. That's the guy that drafted Drew Allen right there. That's Mike McCarthy. That is Jesse,
Minter.
Jesse got me there. Zach Taylor, of course. And we'll talk about all the teams and coaches in that division. There's Pete's guy, Todd Monken. We'll talk about that right after this. We're back here on With the First Pick. We are now turning our attention to the AFC North, where Bryant McFadden won 2 Super Bowls, Pete. But we're going to start with you.
Did he?
Yeah.
Should have been.
Where's
3.
your rings?
2005 and 2008. That's how you
No,
show
it's
them.
like this.
And then, Pete, you were going to the Cleveland Browns, and you're repping Todd Monken and Andrew Barry. They knocked it out of the park in Cleveland.
I love their draft. I gave him a B+. They easily could
Well, you
be
didn't
there.
love it. You didn't love it then.
Well, why'd you give a
B+?
You loved the draft. You gave him an A. But go ahead,
If
carry
you got
on.
a B+ in college, you would have done cartwheels around the stadium. What are you talking about? B+ is a good grade, B-Mac.
You
Come
didn't
on.
love it.
I did love it. Look, Fano's a good player. I probably would have taken Proctor, but I like it. I like that they drafted an offensive lineman. Concepcion gives them some juice in the middle of the field. Boston's a big physical receiver. McNeil Warren, the safety, he can play in the box. He can play in the back end. Barber is a nice rotational offensive lineman from
UF.
And then Parker Brailsford was a center I like more than Ryan did because he's too little.
Yeah.
He's too little. But
You liked them too, Fran?
Yeah, he's a good player. And then you go to Taylon Green. Just add him to the mix. I mean, you have a 500 quarterbacks.
I know we're burning through these things to be Max hungry, but is he the best quarterback of the last 3 they've drafted?
No.
So if you're starting a game, if they were all drafted together last year,
He's raw as can be.
I agree. He's played a lot of football, still raw, but at least he gives you the upside of size and athleticism.
And then, the Royer, the tight end's not a bad player from Cincinnati either. So all in all, a really good draft for the Browns. And by the way, that's 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row, the Browns have had good drafts.
Yeah.
And so it's time to give them some credit. If somebody deserve to be a quarterback, if they can find somebody who deserves to have that job, they're going to win some games this year. I'm not saying because somebody has to have the job, they got to give it to somebody, but if somebody earns the
I agree with
job,
that.
they're going to win some games.
And I'll say, just in terms of Taylon Green, I was kind of, I'll pull a B-Mac. It raised both of my eyebrows when I was sitting there and I saw him taken. But then if you think about what we talked about with Todd Monken and where his offenses have come from, he's been a college guy, right? And when he comes to the league and he's a coordinator, who does he have? Lamar Jackson, a guy that he can do multiple things with. And so adding a Taylon Green gives you a completely different flavor than the other 3 quarterbacks that you have in that room right now.
Yeah.
And it will bring some creativity to the offense. But I think he is a ways away
he's a
from
five.
being able to compete and start for them.
I agree, but that's how you answer the question. You don't just dismiss me and move on to Joe Royer conversations.
What about Taylon Green?
Yeah. You act like he's miles behind Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders.
You think he's going to ever take snaps as a starting quarterback?
All
for the
I said
Cleveland Browns?
was,
I'm asking
of
you
the
a serious
quarterbacks
question.
they drafted,
Do you
the last
think he's
3.
taking snaps as a starter for the Cleveland Browns ever?
Yes. We saw Dylan Gabriel and we saw Shadur Sanders take starts.
One was a
last year.
3rd-round pick, one was a 5th-round pick, and this guy's what, a 6th?
That's all the world and different.
And plus, he's named Shadur Sanders, so there has a little more juice to it. He's not taking snaps as a starting quarterback in Cleveland, ever.
All right, well, you should have told Todd Monken that before they drafted him because they just wasted the draft.
And if I
pick
saw
on-
Todd, I would tell him that.
All right,
We know you would.
let's go. Let's go to Baltimore.
Somebody going to Donkey Kong punch you in the top of your head.
No, they're not.
Let's go to Baltimore, where Todd Monken was previously the offensive coordinator and ran. You are giving the grade for this team, and you liked it.
Yeah, I gave them a B+. I liked some of the moves they've made. Obviously, having Venga Ione, that was the most Baltimore Raven
We
pick.
all got that one right.
Yeah,
Even I got it right. That's
Ryan did.
Thank you.
I mean, I was shocked to see Rayshon Benny there at 250. I thought he was a guy that had a chance to go higher. You add Adam Randall, a developmental running back that's 230-plus pounds, gives you another flavor of a running back behind Derrick Henry. The other 2 guys are a lot of bit smaller than Derrick, but now you have another 230-plus pound running back to add to
Plus,
that.
you got to wonder when Derek's going off the cliff.
But one guy I want to bring up, and I know he was one of B-Mac's guys, and we talked about him a little bit, Chandler Rivers.
Yeah.
Right? Having Chandler Rivers, you get him in the 5th. And when you look at that secondary in Baltimore, I'm not so sure he won't start at nickel for them this year.
Facts.
As the 5th round pick, because Marlon Humphreys has been the nickel, but Marlon Humphreys is not a nickel. In terms of being able to mirror match those smaller slot guys, he smothers them with his size and with his length. And I feel like Marlon Humphrey has been in the league for 35 years, it feels like. But now you have
Coming off a down year, by the way.
and you have Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey on the outside, Chandler Rivers at your nickel, and then you re-sign Chidobe Awuzie, who to me should be the top outside backup and not necessarily a starter. I think adding Chandler Rivers, I think he has a chance to start for him day one as their nickel.
I love Rivers. He has really good tape against really good wide receivers,
Yep.
man. He's done a good job.
We talked about the Skylar Bell matchup against UConn where he
Now here
he
comes
showed
somebody
up.
that's not going to tell the truth.
Well, before we go to BMAC, what's the curve we should grade on when he gives the grade for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
He's going to grade him way above what he really thinks it is.
All right, two-time.
He wants to get invited to Alumni Day.
Yeah.
I already got my invite.
Two-time Super Bowl champ
now.
Bryant McFadden are now making the draft grade for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, so check this out, all right, guys, right? I think my grade is a B+. And hear me out, Pete. No, hear me out. Hear my argument. And of course, you're the only Steeler fan up here with me, but hear me out. I think they faced a lot of criticism when we found out what happened, right, with Mekhi Lemon. And to our former GM's point, that happens a lot, but it might not be publicized. You said it, people jump in front of people. And
People jump in front of you. You don't call.
Don't call.
But I'm saying the whole action, right? But you said that happens in the course of the draft process. But then when I look at the board, and I had an opportunity to really study this board, getting Big Max with your first pick, I'm okay with that because Big Max is going to be a heck of a ball player.
You can never go wrong picking big people.
And then secondly, we all said they wanted a wide receiver. But if you're telling me you're getting Jermaine Bernard, a joystick type of player that knows how to run routes, and he's a football player in the 2nd round, I love that. Then I think the question mark was about Drew Allen being the first 3rd round pick. But Ryan, they had 3 3rd-round picks. What if I told you Drew Allen was 96 instead of 76, and they got Dylan Everett, Jennings Dunker? Would you feel some type of way about that?
A little better.
But you will understand the process. And to Pete's point, what you said today, they trust their board instead of doing what the consensus might have considered they should do. So all of that being said, I'm okay with what they did because they got better. I think Big Max is going to play this season at the right side.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a heck of a player. Bernard is playing. He's probably our 3rd wide receiver right now if you come out in 11 personnel.
100%.
And he can do numbers. He can make people miss.
Don't forget about the wide receiver they drafted in the last pick of that draft too.
You talking about Eli?
Yeah.
And I think Eli.
yeah.
I think Eli could be a guy that could be in the backfield, but a pass catching running back.
he's gonna end up being a slot receiver.
And I said like a little Danny Woodhead.
By the
So
way,
when
what grade you give him?
B+.
That's not the reactions you had when we were in the green room when they were making their picks. I can tell you that. Was that a B+? Did we see B+ reaction?
But see, that's the thing. You know, oftentimes we're prisoners of the moment, and then we had an opportunity to really digest and study it. I'm like, they hit on what they need to hit on.
Ryan?
They needed a what?
Ryan,
Hold
can
on.
you back me up here?
Hold on. Pete, they needed a what? O-lineman, a potential starter. Did they not get that?
Yeah.
They needed a wide receiver that can make people miss, that can coexist with the big bodies that you mentioned, right? Did they not get that? Right? Did they get football players throughout the draft? When you talk about Eli, you look at Robert Spears-Jennings, the safety from Oklahoma, he can go. He's a good player. He can go. He adds depth to the safety position. So B+ is my grade. I stand on it. I live by it. I believe in it.
Your actions up there in the green room spoke differently than that.
That was 24 hours ago, Pete.
And Pete, you'll love this. Producer Lucas informs me that originally the grade that BMAX submitted was a B. So
Yeah, it was a B, and I went B+.
So then you must have got a call that you weren't going to alumni weekend.
B+. And my favorite pick is Dylan Everett.
Hey, Mr. Roney.
Dylan Everett is my
Oh, you going to revoke it? B+?
I will say this.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
B+. We'll give you a B+.
Dale never
Even
ran
though
a-
you
ran a
messed
4.38.
up and didn't get the receiver you wanted to get, we'll give you a B+ anyway.
Now that Bernard, I like Bernard.
No, you wanted Mekhi Lemon. Stop it.
Jared Bernard is the best route runner in this draft.
Real quick question for Pete. If we got Mekhi Lemon and you told me we didn't get an O-lineman, would I like that? No.
No, that's right. But Pete likes big
So
people.
we were able to kill
Remember what we
two
talked
birds with
about.
one stone. There you have it.
What's the best combination?
What's the best combination?
Now, I'll
They
say the
clearly
one.
didn't think it was the best combination because they were going to draft Mekhi Lemon.
Where they were, and they
Maybe
didn't.
maybe Omar was playing 4D chess, Pete.
What you was about to say, Ryan?
No, I was gonna say the Nowakowski kid from
Oh,
Indiana.
Riley, yeah.
He's gonna be that
tight end from Indiana.
Connor Haywood replacement.
That's right.
Same body type.
Same
too.
body type, similar H-back.
Tough.
That wing tight ends that you can use on those sifts, those backside sifts. Put him in the backfield, run some little slips out, some ISO blocks. To me that feels like a classic Steelers.
Pittsburgh will
And
come to
Wedgen,
love him.
Keaton, he's a
Aiden
returner.
Hutchin, yeah, he's got some juice.
He got some juice. So
By the way,
The White.
Riley
Tim White.
Nowakowski, five-time All-Academic Big Ten. So he's also got some brains on his shoulder.
sounds like you, Pete.
Sounds like Pete without the brains. All right, let's turn our attention now to the Cincinnati Bengals.
All academic.
Remember last year how we did not like what the Cincinnati Bengals did in the draft? Started with Shamar Stewart. They got those two linebackers that fans are not happy about. This year, I gave them a B+, and I didn't change the grade mid-conversation here. I give him B+. In terms of on-the-field, Cassius Howell, Pete, you thought he had a chance to go in round one.
I think Cassius Howell's a great football player. He's going to be a big-time pass rusher.
Tacario Davis, long physical corner
tackle
outside. Connor Lew, he could have gone much higher. I had him
I agree.
in the fall, early fall, before he tore his ACL as a possible first-rounder. So he's a good young player. Colby Young is an absolute baller. Had some off-field concerns. He could have potentially gone higher here. I talked about Brian Parker with Rand in the fall. He played left tackle at Duke. He'll kick inside. Landon Robinson is absolutely juiced up as an interior defensive lineman out of Nate.
Short, but
yeah,
thick.
A fun player to watch. And then Jack Indries. Rand, I think you and I both
fan.
agreed, thought he was going to go much earlier than 7.
They had a pretty good draft.
No, they did. And I'll say this, the Connor Lew pick is going to be money for them.
Yep.
Because now with Ted Karras as your starting center, you don't have to rush Connor Lew's recovery back.
Right.
Right? You can start him off the year on PUP, get him back healthy, and you know you got your starting center in the hopper. Then you get a versatile backup in Brian Parker out of Duke. Jack Indries, I'm a super big fan of Jack Indries. I thought he was supremely talented. And I'm just going to say this. Cassius Howell will be a week 1 starter for them.
Correct.
Hey, all right, before we get out of here, let's go around the horn. Will Shamar Stewart be a week 1 starter?
No.
I think he has a shot.
Cassius Howell will be a starter.
Shamar Stewart.
Cassius Howell will take that spot.
Okay. They still got Miles Murphy on his rookie deal as well. All right, that is it.
Boye Muffy.
Yeah.
Murphy's going to have the one position for sure, one side for sure.
Cassius Howell is nasty.
It's a great pick. Hopefully he's ready to go, along with the rest of those guys in that class. That is it for the AFC. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we will turn our attention to the NFC, and in particular, the NFC West. And B-Mac, how do you like Jeremiah Love's fit on draft night?
I mean, I love it. Good fit, but did we think the value was there, taking him there? Let's wait and see.
All right, we'll find out. Welcome back to With the First Pick. We are now doing draft grades for the 2026 NFL Draft, which is now concluded, and we are going first to the NFC West. And let's start with the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm going to do that. I gave them an A-, and I liked a lot of what they did, and it starts not with my guy Carson Beck, but with my other guy, Jeremiah Love. And we talked about this a lot over the last few days. Is that pick a little high? Maybe. But they came back and got Chase Besantis, who we thought had a chance potentially to be a round 1 guy. And look, man, Pete and Rand's guy out of Southeast Louisiana, Caleb Proctor, incredibly juiced up. He went 2 or 3 rounds higher than I thought he would go. Reggie Virgil, the other wide receiver out of Texas Tech, big catch radius guy on the outside. Carson Scherer out of Iowa, and, of course, Jaden Williams out of Ole Miss. And, Rand, let's talk about Caleb Proctor, just about what you like there.
No, I just like the juice. I like the interior juice. He's going to give them another guy that can bring that dynamic one gap penetrating quickness that's going to create the disruption. Look, everybody in that division, right, whether it's Seattle, the Rams, Seattle, the Rams, and San Fran, all run the same run scheme, right? And the number one thing they tell you in that run scheme that gives this run scheme problems is quick disruption. Well, now you add another guy next to Walter Nolan that can create that quick disruption, and when they're trying to make pullers or when they're stretching you along, now you're going to get those guys on uneven tracks because you have the gap penetrator. So now they've added another guy outside of Walter Nolan that has a fastball.
And Walter Nolan was balling before he got in.
And by the way, whenever you see a guy from a small school like that, you put on the tape against good school. He played big school. He played
LSU a good school?
LSU. He had 2 sacks. He had 2 sacks against LSU and a couple tackles in the backfield with penetration.
That is no
He was
worry.
getting up the field.
I'm joking about LSU,
Yeah,
but you're
he's a good
exactly
player.
right. And I didn't mention Carson Beck, by the way. Want to save him for the end. I love the pick in round 3. Didn't overdraft him. We could have conversations, obviously, about whether other teams overdrafted their quarterback. So I'll just leave on this. Carson Beck starts next year at some point?
Yes.
Okay, let's see how that works out. All right, let's go to the Los Angeles Rams and BMAC. We can all agree it wasn't a great draft, but you like this draft a lot less than your Pittsburgh Steelers draft, it looks like.
Yeah, this is C. This is C for me because most of the top value picks probably won't contribute this year in a win-now scenario for the Rams. Ty Simpson, we've talked about Ty Simpson in this move for the Rams. This is a future pick for them. Max Clara, look at the quantity they already have at the tight end position. Currently, they have 6 tight ends, and the top 3 guys are still there in L.A. You look at Keegan Trost. I like this pick because clearly the offensive line was a concern. He provides depth if there is some issues at the tackle positions offensively. C.J. Daniels, he's more of a depth piece at the wide receiver spot. So all in all, you never really want to question what Les Snead and Sean McVay do during the draft process. But this draft kind of raises your eyebrows a little bit because none of these players actually potentially are slated to help right now. And we all said that this is a must-win type deal when you look at the moves they made, giving up a first-rounder for Trent McDuffie. You know where your star quarterback is in his career. And it was a bit surprising to see them do what they did this draft when you look at how their team is already structured.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that. Obviously, Pete didn't love the first pick and
hated it.
The tight end pick was curious to say the least. It is interesting here as I look at the rundown. This division, the best division in football, has probably 3 of the worst draft grades we've given. The best draft grade the Arizona Cardinals, among the best draft grades.
They needed it the most.
And they did need it the most. And Pete, I'm sort of surprised that you, the 49ers, not surprising there, but that your draft grade for San Francisco is actually lower than BMAX was for the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I gave him a C-. I didn't love the draft. Again, we talked about it earlier. They take Stribling, the wide receiver. I like him, but I think and then they took height, so they wanted to get edge and wide receiver. I think they would have been better off taking our Mason Thomas in that spot and then coming back and getting a wide receiver, whoever was available there. So I didn't love that part of it. I didn't like taking the running back, Kalen Black, in the 3rd round. Halton, good player, can push up the field. That's a nice pick. I do like Prysock. I think he's a guy, long, athletic corner. He has to have better ball skills, but he's a good player. I just didn't love what they did at the top. And again, this is one of those teams that does what they do. So they're not going to be beholden to anybody. Remember, they traded 3 first-round picks to go up and get Trey Lance back in the day. They don't care what anybody thinks. These were their guys. They went and got them. I just didn't love it.
And I'll follow that up with let's look at rounds 5 through 7, right? Go look at their history in those rounds. In rounds 5 through 7, you get George Kittle in 5, you get Dre Greenlaw in 5, you get Talanoa Hufanga in 5, you get Diamador Lenore in 5, you draft DJ Jones in 6, you draft the other DJ, the corner that's in Detroit.
Reed.
DJ Reed. You draft DJ Reed in 5. So they've hit.
Where was D. Winters taken? And he was a later round.
I think he was a 4th or 5th round pick. So they've hit on day 3. They have probably as high as a hit rate on day 3 as anybody. And I know you've been talking up Ephesians Prysock pretty much all weekend, even going back to yesterday. You talked when we were in the green room watching, you talked him up a bit.
And it feels like, to Rand's point, you can make them zig when other people zag early on if you're hitting on those day 3 picks, whereas the Rams felt like they didn't help themselves as much as they potentially could have for next season. But again, we shall see. All right, Rand, you have the Seattle Seahawks, and continuing the theme there, you gave them a C as well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. We came into this draft process with these grades, and the NFC West, 3 out of their 4 were drafts that we didn't like. And then the one team who we felt like needed it the most, the Arizona Cardinals, has the best draft. But looking at this draft class, I'm giving them a C. And the reason why I'm giving them a C is because you have 8 picks that right now is probably only going to produce 1 starter. And that was your 32nd pick in Jadarian Price. But again, that's really no fault of theirs. They are the reigning Super Bowl champs. So when you're the Super Bowl champs, you're going to pick at the bottom of dang near every round. So 4 out of the 8 picks came at the 32nd pick or lower throughout those particular rounds. And so it's only a certain level of player that's going to be there. The one other point, and I talked about it before, in terms of Julian Neal, that was going to be a really good depth pick for them, especially on the outside, as they look to get taller and longer. But they drafted 3 corners, including Julian Neal. Those guys, those back-end guys, especially the ones that they took in day 3, are going to have a chance to make this football team because the depth behind those guys is minimal, especially when you add in the nickel position, because Nick Emanwari is going to be the nickel, right? But then you look on the other side, and Devon Witherspoon can also play nickel and has been the nickel. But behind them, the depth is very minimal. So those back-end guys will have a chance. This grade for me right now is a C, that 3 years from now we could look back and upgrade it a little bit more based off of how they fit in with the rest of this roster.
All right, before we go to break here, let's go around the horn and just say I'm gonna say the LA Rams to mix it up. Who's going to win the division next year? I'm going to say LA Rams.
I'm going to go with the Rams.
I go Rams also.
It's hard to pick against Seattle.
And they're plus 130, according to producer Lucas.
It's hard to pick against.
And we just crushed them for their draft.
It is, but and I know Pete's gonna call me a homer, but I'm gonna go Niners. I'm gonna go a healthy Niners team.
And by
Okay.
the way, I will say this: it wouldn't shock me to see any one of those 3 teams win it.
Seahawks second, and then the San Francisco 49ers are third.
But they could easily be flipped.
100%. But it is interesting that we spent the last 45 minutes crushing the Rams.
Tells you how good those teams are, though, is the
It
fact
tells
that
you how
they
good.
don't have great drafts and they don't need these players, and they're still
That's
going to
right.
be Super Bowl contenders.
And your big contention was you didn't need a quarterback, take a wide
Well,
receiver or whatever.
they need the running back in Seattle. There's no question.
That's right.
they need
Yeah,
that.
no, with the Rams. That's right. All right, let's keep the party going, guys. We're now in the NFC East as we do these post-2026 draft grades. And B-Mac,
Yeah.
you are the New York Football Giants. What do you got there? You got to like what they did.
I give him an A. Slam dunk for Coach Harbaugh's first draft with this team. When you talk about having a top 5 selection, 5 going to Orville Reese. The thing I love about Orville Reese outside of the selection, they have a plan in place, right? They have a plan in place. He's going to be an off-ball linebacker, but potentially they have this, as I like to call it, NASCAR formation where he gets an opportunity to be a down rusher, right, in passing situations. So I love that plan. Secondly, with the trade to Dexter Lawrence to Cincinnati, you got their top 10 pick. You ain't got one of the more coveted offensive linemen in the draft in Francis Mauigoa. And they already said he is going to be their right guard. Remember, that was a big void for them a year ago. So now your 2 guards are Francis Mauigoa and John Runyon. Let's do business. 2 big maulers, right? Massive individuals. Then you talk about early in the second round getting Colton Hood. Had really, really hot tape. He's a football player. He's like Jalen Johnson in this draft. He's very, very patient, and he makes his money right in front of the wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. Love press coverage as well. And then I'm going to just throw out something that I love that they did in the final day, getting Jack Kelly from BYU in the 6th round. I understand this is more of a potential developmental type of pick, but in terms of just his football pedigree, he has it. This could be a guy that could do some damage, special teams in the teams area. So in all, I love everything about the Giants draft. One concern, just attacking the big hole that was created when you moved on from Dexter Lawrence. Now, we heard they have a potential plan to sign DJ Reader, but just adding more depth could have been a possibility. But outside of that, I give him an A.
I will say this, Bobby Jameson Travis, who they did sign, is enormous. I had a chance to watch him late in the draft process. 6'3", 335, 34 3/8-inch arms, and he has some juice. I was actually talking to Connor Liu about him, going up against him in practice, and obviously there was a size mismatch there. So he's not going to be a day 1 starter. Does add some depth, however. All right, let's go to the nation's capital here, Rand, and you are repping for the Washington Commanders, who also had a pretty good draft.
No, and I might be low, and I'm giving them a B+, and I might be low, and I could honestly admit that. But obviously, love Sonny Styles, the ideal dream fit for what Dan Quinn wants out of his middle linebacker. And I think it should, and I could be off maybe a little bit, but this could kind of cement that Bobby Wagner will not be returning to the team. Now, I will say this. That position is interchangeable, so there may be some form of that because you did sign Leo Chenal. You still have Frankie Louvu, but to me, Louvu and Chenal are both more like Sam linebackers in the way that they could be used. Louvu could probably play off the ball and play a little bit of will for you and give you some versatility there. One guy that I feel like they stole is Antonio Williams.
Me too.
I think Antonio Williams coming into the year was one of my top 5 wide receivers. And I think he is going to get busy in the slot. He is going to get busy in the slot. And if you look at their depth right now of what they have, you have Scary Terry.
Yeah. McCaffrey.
Traylon Burks and Luke McCaffrey.
Yes.
Then they bring Diami back, too.
And they brought De'Ami Brown back, but then I saw a report where they are interested in signing Brandon Ayuk if and when he becomes available. So imagine a lineup where if Ayuk is healthy and his mind is right, you got a Brandon Ayuk, a Terry McLaurin, and Antonio Williams in the slot. He is going to get busy in that slot, and you match him with Jalen Daniels. I think
he was on the better than team too, by the way. I love Antonio Williams.
Oh,
yes, he
and
was.
so he was one of my top 5. But it goes back to what I always say, B-Mac, and this could be said for all the Clemson guys. He did not forget how to play football.
Yeah.
He suffered that injury in week 1, and I think that set him back. And then just the team as a whole was set back from that.
I love that.
So I love what Adam Peters has did. Shout out to you, AP. I love the job that you've done, you and DQ. So you know what, producer Lucas, I'm going to change my grade. I'm going to give them their A.
Okay.
Wow. I'm going to give them the bump.
He talked himself and gave them the A.
I'm going to give them the A because you come back in the 6th round and you get a running back in Katron Allen that is going to compete for a role because they do have depth there at running back. But guess what, guys? Like, it's Rashad White is who you sign. Is Rashad White a lead back?
No.
That's arguable. He's a good, productive back. But you add a healthy Jaden Daniels to this offense, it's going to create for those backs. And Katron Allen is the type to put his foot in the ground and accelerate. So I love what Adam Peters and his guys have done. I'm changing my grade from a B+ to an A.
I thought the grade bump went because they got the Greek rifle with the very last pick, Ethan Kalik-Manis.
See, I would have talked about him, but I can't say his name, and I was going to leave that to you. So
we've talked about him on the podcast the last few weeks because he took a ton of 30 visits, and Rand explained that sometimes maybe you're just trying to give him that recruiting trip to sign as a UDFA.
You go watch him.
He can sling it. And we talked about that. I told you he's like a little bit of Aiden O'Connell in terms of the way he plays.
But think about this, and it goes back to what Ryan was just saying. I told him he goes in round 7. He's a 7th pick, right, in the 7th round. He had how many top 30 visits?
Like 12 is a lot.
So now that tells you 11 other teams coveted him.
Right.
So what's the easiest way to secure you get him?
Draft him.
Draft him.
And one of the craziest things that happened this draft, he was QB8, taking 2 spots higher in terms of the QBs taken than Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. All right, Pete, speaking of crazy, the Dallas Cowboys, another team that we were crushing them when they moved on from Micah Parsons. That seems to be a distant memory given what they did in this draft.
Well, they've had a good offseason, and this draft is included. I give him an A. Look, Caleb Downs will be a playmaker on the back end. I don't like taking safeties at this spot, but Levin, good spot for him. He's going to be a good player. Malachi Lawrence can rush, and he's going to be a twitchy rusher. They needed that. You know, Barham is a guy I loved last year when he played off the ball linebacker. They put him as a pass rusher, and he did that well last year at Michigan. Overton is an interesting guy as well, made some plays at Alabama. And then if you watch East Carolina play, Anthony Smith could go at times, man. He was one of those guys. They put up a lot of points in that offense, and he could go. So I think the Cowboys, based on their top 3 picks, really, really hit it out of the park. And I think, I said it earlier and I'm saying it again, they are going to be a Super Bowl contender this year.
Yeah, and I can't even push back too hard on that. And it is interesting that I have the Philadelphia Eagles, and they had the worst draft grade of the ones that we've talked about. Again, 3 years since maybe the best team on planet Earth because of this draft. But as of now, Mekhi Lemon loved the pick. B-Mac and I don't love the idea they stole him from the Steelers, but can't do anything about that. Eli Stowers, I understand what you're doing. Maybe he's more receiver than tight end. I understand that. I get it. I don't necessarily love the value at 54, but I could be on an island there. Markel Bell is a player for the future. He blocks out the sun, but he has some way to go developmentally. But like I told Pete throughout the process, he does have some good tape, and he also has some really, really bad tape. So that's where he has to improve. Cole Payton, that's where I had him going, around round 5. But, Randa, I think you would agree if you're going to draft a player at quarterback, you want him to fit a system, and that sort of feels like he fits that system as a backup. Cole Payton going with Jalen Hurts, or is that not?
I don't. That was a pick for me
Okay.
when we were originally talking about day 3 reaches. And I know we're talking about day 3 and where he went, but I'm pulling up their roster now for Cole Payton. Where's he going to play, right? Obviously, Jalen Hurts is Jalen Hurts. Tanner McKee, they like a lot. And they traded for Andy Dalton. So there's no role for him in the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know why
unless
they
he's your
drafted him.
practice squad. But if you're saying we've all talked about him being
Taysom.
the next Taysom Hill, well, you got Dallas Goedert, you got Cole Katera, then you draft Eli Stowers in the second round. You got Cameron Latu. Where's his line in?
When they
tight
trade
end?
Jalen Hurts, then he can become the third quarterback.
We have seen Howie, though, trade some of the quarterbacks. And we've had the discussions about trading the backup quarterback, right, in Tanner McKee. So perhaps that's a possibility, but I do take your point. So I gave him a B. It wasn't as great as the other drafts in that division, at least as we sit here. And, Rand, before we go out, I'll ask you about the Howie pick there at the end, Uwar Bernard, the Nigerian young man who looks like he's AI with the way he is built. And this is strictly developmental, but they hit a grand slam with Jordan Mailata back in the day.
Yeah, I was actually at that workout, and it was, ironically enough, it was at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers facility when Jordan Mailata worked out. And I remember watching him move, and I phoned back and was like, we're going to have to draft this guy. Because every team was there represented. And when you see something in those moments, everyone kind of gets quiet. It goes from a bunch of sidebar conversation to everyone gets quiet. And I believe I was at the Rams at the time. And I loved what they did with Mailata. They drafted him knowing that he was going to be the 53rd person on their roster. They weren't going to cut him. And obviously that developmental process worked out well for him.
Yep.
So I think they're going to do the same thing with this guy, with the understanding that the upside and of what's in his body is probably big enough. But again, you got to understand, even when you take a player like this, at minimum, he's 3 years away.
Yeah.
At minimum, because he's never played the game of football. So it's bigger than just the physical and the talent standpoint. You got to be able to play the game.
And by the way, the odds of him hitting on him like they did with Mailata are pretty slim.
And that's why you take him at pick 251. Yeah. But sure, he has a track record, and the workout was crazy.
Before we go, and this is something, and I guess I'll do my own research on it, I'll be interested to see if they'll be able to sneak him through as their international practice squad guy.
Probably.
All right. Well, that's something to look forward to. What else you have to look forward to is we're going to take a quick break, though. NFC South time, draft grades after the 2026 NFL draft has now concluded. We are going to New Orleans to start things off, and I'm giving the grades. And I'm giving a B+. It does feel like a lot of the teams that are trying to make that move to get above 500 had pretty good drafts, and the Saints are one of those teams. Starts with Jordan Tyson at 8, and many people on this desk other than me think that he could have been wide receiver 1 very easily. Kristen Miller, another great run-stopping defensive tackle out of Georgia this time, makes his way at pick 42 to New Orleans. Has to improve as a pass rusher, but you don't necessarily need to figure that all out in year 1. Oscar Delp. Now, this gets Pete going because we give Nate Borkircher a lot of flack because he didn't catch a lot of passes. Oscar Delp was not incredibly productive at Georgia, but he does have that upside. I like Jeremiah Wright a lot more than some other people did. I thought he could have gone around or two higher, the guard out of Auburn. And then Bryce Lance ran in the 4.3s. Trey Lance's brother also played at North Dakota State. I didn't think he was as physical as perhaps his size would indicate, but he does give you a down-the-field target. We know that Tyler Shucks is going to shuck it down the field. And then finally, Lorenzo Styles Jr., he's not the other Styles brother. He is Sonny's brother. He is a really good football player. He was just overshadowed by the 8 other guys that seemed to go in the first round there. And then finally, Baron Brown, the undersized, juiced-up wide receiver out of LSU. B+. Anybody got any problem with that?
No.
Nope.
All right, Pete, you are up, and you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, sir.
Yeah, and I gave the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a B. I think Reuben Bain's a good pick for them at 15. He's going to give them some really nasty pass rushes on a team that needs that in the worst way. Then you come back and get Trotter. I mean, Levante David's gone. You need to get another linebacker. It makes sense. Ted Hurst can go. You lose Mike Evans, you get a big physical receiver. That works. Keontae Scott's a good football player. Probably a little surprised he fell down here. Then they get the tight end. I want to talk about the tight end.
You love that guy.
That kid is a mauler in the run game.
You've been talking about him for months. I will give you credit.
You want to talk about somebody who'll block?
Yes.
That kid, Bauer Sharp from LSU, will block people, and I think that's why they drafted him. So I like their draft. I gave him a B.
A lot of people were higher on Billy Stroth than
I didn't love him.
I didn't either, and he had some injuries, so he lasted till round 5. But maybe he ends up being the guard out of Notre Dame. Maybe he ends up being
and
the
then the
steal.
other defensive tackle from Clemson too.
Demonte Capehart. That's right, absolutely. All right, next up, Rand, B+ for your Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, man, that did a really good job in terms of what Dan Morgan and his staff have done to rebuild this roster. And so I'm looking at the roster, right, and as a whole, I look at Monroe Freeling. He was my third tackle. And then you look at Lee Hunter. He was my DT5. And then Chris Brazzell was my wide receiver 3. Sam Heck was my third center. And then you look at Zakee Wheatley, who I don't think this is an ability draft in terms of him going in the 5th round.
Right.
But he was my 6th safety. And so whether I'm right or wrong in terms of my rankings, they got good players at every point of the draft that is going to help improve their entire roster. So I gave them a B+.
Yeah.
Love it. Now, let's see. We're going to hold B-Mac's feet to the fire here. He's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. He gave them the same grade that he gave his Pittsburgh Steelers, a B+.
I gave Atlanta. Yeah, I think when you look at this entire division as a whole, they needed to improve.
Do you count the guy they picked from last year that would have been the pick this year?
I didn't for this grade, but I could, but I didn't. But, of course, to Pete's point, they did not have a first-round pick because of the James Pierce draft selection last year. But their first pick came in round 2, number 48, Avion Terrell. Avion Terrell, if he didn't run the 40 at his pro day, he would have been drafted higher.
Yep.
When you watch Avion play, he's next man fast. And what I mean when I say that, he runs fast enough to cover whoever it is next to him. And he did at a high level since day one, going to Clemson, as a young cornerback. And when you look at what they did last year, that young athletic DB group they drafted, Billy Bowman, Xavier Watts, all made
Safety.
plays.
Hell of a draft.
Yeah.
Great, yes, no question. All made plays. So year 2 for them, and you throw him into that group as well. They have some nice young core pieces in the secondary. Fans living in Atlanta, fans always complain about the Falcons not drafting Georgia Bulldog players. When you look at the plethora of talented guys that have improved other organizations, not taking homegrown guys, well, they heard the cry. Went out and got Zachariah Branch in round 3. He's a joystick type of player. You can do a lot with him in the slot. He can return some kicks for you, punts for you as well. And he has that juice that you need to have in terms of speed and quickness. And then you look at the 6th round, 215, Harold Perkins Jr. Once upon a time, after his freshman campaign, many felt like he was going to be the next great defender to come out of LSU.
First round defender.
First round for sure. The injury happened, and they moved him around, and it really hurt his draft stock. And he was available for them in round 6. But if you're Atlanta, you see the potential, you see the ceiling there for this kid, and he still ran extremely well during his pre-draft process, the workouts and things like that. So for Atlanta to do what they did and having a minimum of 5 picks coming into the draft, but adding one more and getting 3 high-level players, in my opinion, puts them into that B+ category.
And Rand, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out my guy Kendall Daniels from Oklahoma, who they also drafted. He would be, if you stood
In
him
round
next
4.
to, that's right, next to Harold Perkins, he would be Harold Perkins' older brother. They do similar things, but one weighs 20 pounds more than the other. So they got both for a pretty good price there on day 2. I agree. They actually have drafted well the last few years. They just got to figure out the quarterback situation.
And if the guy they drafted last year is on the field. I mean, if he's on the field, that's a hell of a pick. James Pierce was outstandanding last year.
And even thinking about it, because I hadn't thought about their last year's draft class, and to think they drafted probably an A+ class last year.
Yep.
And then the GM and the head coach who picked them are no longer there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
It's crazy, but
life in the NFL.
yeah, and that's
Quarterback.
That's why I like doing podcasts. All right, let's take another quick break here, and one last division to go, and we're headed to the NFC North. The fighting, biting kneecaps, the Dan Campbells. We'll talk about them and the other teams in that division right after this. All right, let's wrap this thing up. We are in the NFC North, and Pete, I'm coming to you. Do you know where B-Mac played his first Super Bowl in 2005?
Where?
Detroit. And you're going to talk about
I was
the Detroit
there.
Lions. Oh, yeah?
He was there.
Yeah, I was
How
there.
did B-Mac play?
In the basement. He was in the basement.
I was in the basement,
Oh, is
going
that
through
true?
in the biosphere.
Oh, that was at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that was the one where we never left, never went outside. I think I went outside once the entire week.
All right, fast forward 21 years, and now we are here, and you are giving us draft grades for the 2026 draft of the Detroit Lions.
That's not who
Actually,
I'm
it's
giving.
me.
Oh, that's Rand. Man, I made it through 2 hours, didn't mess up anyone's
You
name.
sorta
I
did.
sat back and didn't say
Oh
nothing.
my God, I was waiting where you were going with that. I was like, what the hell does that have to do with Chicago?
Why did you do that to me, Rand? I literally wrote down the names of people.
I mean, I'm like,
Rand,
I'm like, okay, I got the Bears.
right
Why is he asking?
down.
Why are you asking me about the Detroit when I got the Bears? What are you doing?
Listen, this is the perfect time to play that song. This would have been the perfect time to play that song that was made for us. But talking about the Detroit Lions, I gave those guys a B. Not a sexy draft, right? But a lot of what Brad Holmes has done as the GM on the surface has not been sexy. But then you go back a year from now and you realize that they've gotten some really good football players. So Blake Miller's going to be a dynamic fit, and I love Derek Moore in the role that he's going to play with for those guys. I liked him probably a lot more than most people. And then this is where I'm going to step aside. I'm going to say the name, and I'm going to step aside. Skylar Gill-Howard.
That's my guy.
You love him.
Oh, that's my guy. Here's how much I love Skylar Gill-Howard, the defensive tackle out of Texas
You
Tech.
stop paying your son's tuition.
No. They got me on that one. I was preparing for the combine, and I was watching the Texas Tech guys, and Skylar Gill-Howard had broken his ankle halfway through the season, so he did not play. Got the invite. I'm watching him, and I've never done this, but I was having so much fun that I Googled who was Skylar Gill-Howard's agent. I called his agent. I said, can I talk to Skylar Gill-Howard? And he was happy to do it. And it was a fantastic story. Former Division II linebacker, Pete, at Upper Iowa, was 235, gained 50 pounds, went to Northern Illinois, and then last year was part of that $8 million line at Texas Tech. I was so happy to see him get drafted.
Not a big guy, though.
Not a big guy, but he is juiced up.
Yeah,
compact.
Yeah.
It's
And,
fun to watch.
Yeah, we talked about Landon Robinson. He is that sort of juiced up. All right, I'm reading the notes here, so I know this is true, B-Mac. You're going to do the grades for the Minnesota Vikings here.
Yeah, I gave the Minnesota Vikings, Skull Nation, I gave them a B-. And the reason why, when you talk about the first-round selection, Caleb Banks, I understand people have some reservations about the foot injury, right? I'm not concerned about the foot injury. It's about his willingness to be an every-down player, or whenever he's on the football field. And oftentimes when you watched him at Florida, sometimes he would turn it on, sometimes he wouldn't turn it on. And when you talk about playing for Brian Flores, two things are going to happen with this situation. It's either going to be boom or bust. It's going to work out or it's not going to work out. There's no gray area with Brian Flores based on how he coaches and how tough he coaches. So hopefully Caleb hits that consistency to be able to be a dominant player, because when you see him, he makes the all-look team. He has everything you would want an interior D lineman
What is
to
he
have.
like?
Yeah, he covers the
Door
whole door frame when you're walking through. When you look at Jake Golday, I wasn't as high on Jake as some of you guys were.
No,
I'm with you. He's with us.
When you talk about some of the other options, C.J. Allen was still available. They decided to go with Jake. We'll see how it plays out. When you talk about having concerns with Caleb, guess what? They doubled down and got Dominique Orange in round 3 at the 82nd pick. I love his leverage. He plays with good pad level, and I think he has an opportunity to crack the lineup as well. Jacoby Thomas in round 3, he's a hitter. He's a tone setter. He's a Brian Flores type of player. Now, they lost Harrison Smith, and you talk about his big playability, but Jacoby isn't that type of guy. He's willing to put that Rydell on you for 4 quarters. So, in all, not a bad draft, but I give him a B- when you talk about just the uncertainty with the first-round selection and Caleb Banks.
If Caleb Banks is Chris Jones, that's an A draft. If Caleb Banks is Mason Smith, it's an F draft. That's basically what it will be.
And he looks like Chris Jones.
Yeah.
You know
Looks
what I
like
mean?
Mason Smith, too.
Yes, so
When Pete saw him at Combine, Pete, first thing he said, now that is how they're supposed
That's
to
how
look.
they're supposed to look. When he gets off the bus, you go, that's a defensive tackle right there.
B-Mac, you know what Caleb Banks said to me and Rand the first time he sat down with us at the combine?
What's that?
Man, me and my mom watched your show on the podcast.
Ryan, you know you told me like 3 times already.
Why are you guys
He's
letting
having
me?
a senior moment.
That's okay.
Hey, what is he, Pete? He's sleepy.
He's sleepy. But by the way,
Well,
you
guess
got,
what?
you got 2 people that watch the show. Congrats.
Damn, Pete. Well, you know what? It's his show. I'm going to move out.
That's right.
It's your
If you
show.
let Rand talk more, maybe more people will watch.
The best part is Rand was laughing, and then he got what you said. So wait a second. Why did I catch that one? All right, let's go here. Pete, you are now up officially. You're the Chicago Bears, and you gave them a B- because they, at the top, great. After that, there were some questions.
Yeah, I love Dylan Thieneman. You know that. I think he's going to be a big-time playmaker on their defense. He can run, he can tackle, he can hit. And I, like I've said earlier, I don't think there was a great difference between Downs and him. I think when it's all said and done, they're going to be very close together in what they do. Love that pick. But then we had a team that was supposed to get better on defense.
Yeah.
And you look, they draft Logan Jones, the center Okay, Bradbury, little center. He's going to be the center this year. Logan Jones, little center. He'll be the center of the future. Sam Roush. How many more tight ends do you need? Everybody in the league's drafting more tight ends.
Right.
He can block. I get it. I wasn't wowed by his blocking either. Xavier Thomas, a wide receiver. I didn't love that pick. Then you start picking defensive players. Muhammad, interesting corner, not a big guy. Elliott, who I watched a lot at ASU, good player at linebacker. And then the guy that might end up being a big-time steal, Vandenberg, the defensive tackle from Georgia Tech. I got word on him. I told you about him. I got word on him from somebody. I went and watched him. I said, man, that kid's tough, physical, and he plays hard all the time. Where's their edge rusher in this draft?
And they needed an edge rusher.
Where is the edge rusher? That's my only question. That's why I give it a B-. Dylan Thieneman brings the grade up. The fact that they focused on the offense brings the grade down.
I heard they'd like T.J. Parker had they stayed there, and no Dylan Thieneman, and also Keldrick Falk perhaps. But it's one of those things where your board gets changed once you see Dylan Thieneman there because you thought maybe he was going to be long gone.
Kobe Bryant, Dylan Thieneman in the back end. That's a good group back there.
They're going to be fun. All right, finally. One more team to go, the Green Bay Packers. That's me. I gave an A-. They didn't pick till round 2, but they just checked boxes, filled needs, and I thought they did a really good job. Brandon Cisse, I thought, had a chance to go 10, 15 picks higher than that. He's a really good cornerback out of South Carolina. Chris McClellan, Rand and I spent weeks talking about him and how good he was and undervalued because not a lot of folks talking him up out of Missouri, the defensive lineman there. Denai Dennis Sutton, he looks the part, 6'6", 256. I still think there's a ton of meat left on the bone for him to get better. Interior offensive line depth with Jagger Burton, who I like. Damani Jackson, another long physical corner, and he got off to a rough start, got benched, and then played much better when he got back on the field. And then finally there, Trey Smack, kicker out of Florida.
Traded up to go get him, too, by the way.
Florida struggled a lot last year. The specialists were balling out.
That means McManus. Goodbye.
Potentially, that's right. Yeah.
Goodbye. No, not potentially. See?
So A- for the Green Bay Packers. And look, before we get out of here, I do. This is me and Rand's podcast, legitimately, and this is
Oh, he included you that time.
Minority stake.
We had a blast at the combine. I'm glad with all you guys. I'm glad we get the band back together for this. I thought it went fantastic.